It is Thursday. It is 2 p.m. and it is a good time to be alive, though it is a little bit on the chilly side. And for the life of me, I cannot figure out if this is global warming, global cooling, or global confusion. But either way, it's warm one day, it's cool one day. So I'm just bundling up these days. But thank you for taking the time to stop in and check out this leadership business podcast with myself. I've got one of the best guests in the entire community with me today. But first, we want to say thank you to the Messenger Studio for always hosting this. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, absolutely. And then we've got Meade County Christian School, fantastic Journey Church, and of course Dunkin' Donuts out in I almost said Radcliffe. There is one going up in Radcliffe. That's I'm developing the team, but it's not partnership. So anyways, Corden, Indiana. But hey, with me today is the one and only Travis Flaherty. Hey, so hey, thanks, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I appreciate you being on the show today. This is awesome. It was really cool. A couple weeks ago, I was interviewing Luis Bravo, and we were just talking about like his not just his age, but like just his development. Like, how do you get into something? So he's like, I'm into restaurants, I'm into properties, and so we just kind of talked about all that good stuff a little bit. And I went home and I just talked about and just was like having a really great time. And my wife was just like, man, she's like, who do you think who do you got in the coming in? I was just like, I was like, one person I really want to get is Travis. I was just like, well, I mean, one, you've been in the community for a while. Like, are you born and raised here?
Yeah, born and raised here.
Whole life. Okay.
Whole life.
Brandenburg.
Not in the Battletown community. That's where I'm originally from.
Yeah.
But everything in life revolved around Brandenburg, right?
Yeah, okay.
You participated in was in Brandenburg.
So you've seen Brandenburg just evolve.
Absolutely.
All these years. What is one of your fondest memories of, like, you can say like that place there used to be a field, and like, what was one of the first things to go up for those that maybe
Mr. Gaddy's?
Okay, I've heard that before.
Yeah, right across from you.
Yeah.
Was a single building with an empty field behind it. There was nothing there. And, of course, later became the skating rink, and the movie theater came across the street. So people would run back and forth across there. But also Meade County Bank. I can remember.
Okay.
Growing up, we did a lot of business in Irvington because they had more.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Than Brandenburg had.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, the late 70s and early 80s. So that's hard to imagine today. But, yeah, we did a lot of things there. I remember Meade County Bank,
Okay.
When it came. There was a shopping center across from it, but
yeah, it
was just the start of the evolution of
just kind of like the beginning of it all.
Absolutely. But Mr. Gaddy's really stands out.
I think it's kind of funny when I first moved here, because I've been here almost going on 9 years. There was like this Facebook post years ago, 8-something years ago, and they were just like, man, bring back the movie theater, bring back the skating rink. And
where are you gonna go, right?
I was like, we like being here, but yeah, that was I learned something new all the time about the facilities there. And like, there are people that attend the church whose like parents used to be like the pro shop of the skating rink, and like, we've got a pair of the original skates in there and everything. Actually, I went down to Dee's Barbershop years ago before I knew the guys, and I just walked in. It's just like, hey, this is like, rumor has it, I know, which is always a scary thing to start with. Rumor has it that like, you all might have like a ton of the skates, and I might have been Derek who took me down there, but it's just like a pile of them. So he's just like, yeah, just take yourself one. It was awesome. So I was getting educated. But okay, so tell me something. All right, how does one get into the car business? Like, so you've been with a dealership, cars, for quite some time. Like, as a business owner, right, in a local community where like things matter, right? I mean, because you've seen the development of Brandenburg for decades. How does one get into that? Like, tell me about a time when you're just like, I think I like this. Like, what made you passionate about getting involved with like cars?
I've always had a passion for cars.
Okay.
I grew up around my dad.
Oh, nice.
Brothers, they love cars, particularly Chevys.
Yeah.
I've
okay.
always been a Chevy
I mean, it makes sense, right?
My entire life. So, and I always had an interest in cars and in business. And I worked. The funny thing is, I built houses for about 6 years. I worked for my uncle out.
Okay. Nice.
A lot of people.
Don't know that. I didn't know that. So,
but I still had this burning passion for sales, for automobiles, for something new. And it was a day about like this back in January '98 when I went to Tony Brown.
Yeah.
It was actually Wheatley Chevrolet when I started there.
Wheatley Chevrolet. Okay.
Wheatley Chevrolet
Okay.
is where the current Napa building is.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that's where I started.
Okay.
And talked to Tony, interviewed with him. He hired me a few days later, and it took off.
Wow. So you loved it.
Yeah, I loved it.
What was like?
I loved it.
What was that first position that just really like
Sales.
you knew sales?
Sales consultant. Yes.
Okay. What is it? All right. So you have like a love, like you have a passion for like the vehicle, and then you're also finding a passion for sales. That's amazing that the two could be in the same thing. I think. Do you ever find people that are passionate about something, but it doesn't like connect with like a livelihood?
Something's missing, right?
Right.
Like for me, it was people as well.
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed people, and
that's amazing.
So it kind of brought all those things together. But yeah, you see that sometimes they have one thing, but they're missing something else to take it over the top and just make it mesh, make it work for them. So,
how old were you when you started?
I was 23.
23 years old.
23 years old.
What is it about sales that you loved about it or liked about it? I mean, I don't know. I agree with you. I love people. Like I love people and just like trying to bring something to the game. I don't know if I ever like loved coffee, but I sure like it a lot. I rely on it. So when there was like a couple things that were matching up with like the Dunkin' brand, I'm like, this could actually be kind of cool. Like it kind of like checks off a bunch of the boxes. Like what was it about the sales part that just like had you like energized to do it?
Typically you're solving an issue for someone. Their cars wore out.
Right.
Or maybe in the shop, the car keeps breaking down. So they're getting into something new, something reliable. You're able to help them.
Oh, you're finding a solution.
Yeah,
that's good.
A solution. A lot of times we find that in today's world, these people have a problem. They don't have a problem.
Right.
They're looking for a solution, right?
Yes.
So it's an opportunity to help people find solutions with everyday life that's important because without an automobile, my dad taught me that years ago. If you don't have a good, reliable car, you're not going to be able to get from work, to make a paycheck, to pay a mortgage, to do those things. So helping people, working with people, finding solutions, and it's all tied to automotive. So
yeah,
that was the thrill for me. Getting to drive new cars, right? That was a plus. Because I couldn't afford one at the time.
Right.
The only way I could afford to drive one was to work at a dealership.
Every time you or your wife Rachel comes through the fair gate, because I'm always working that first one, I'm always just thinking like, I always say something sarcastic like, "Hey, I'll do a blind trade for you right now. Like whatever I got parked behind me is for this." What is that? So and I have I got my truck from your dealership. I've got the Trail Boss Z70. What is that? What is that blue one that rolls through? It's like a
ZR2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's next for you.
That's the wing dinger. Like if anybody ever said like, what are you going to do next? I'm like, that's what's on my wall. Like,
Right.
do you? Okay. So when it comes to leadership and the business part, because I believe that you have to have both to be in business. There has to be leadership, right? Do you ever find yourself like when you're investing in like younger leadership or you're talking to people and they're asking questions, do you ever find that maybe the priorities are out of line a little bit? Maybe we're like where you just mentioned that you enjoy sales because actually you're enjoying the person, you're enjoying helping them find a solution. Do you think that anybody ever gets it mixed up by accident by saying, well, I want to make money.
Absolutely.
Instead of actually, and it's actually just the ripple effect.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about how that could be easily mixed up, or what you would say to a new person coming up in leadership.
Typically, what we see is if someone is driven by money, and that's not a bad thing.
Sure. Yeah.
But when they hit hard times,
right,
that's when they lose the motivation to keep
that's
pushing
good.
forward, and because they're looking to bounce. Where's the next opportunity?
Oh.
And in this business, and it can be so easy to get frustrated because you have good times, you have bad times.
Right.
2021 and 22 is a little different than 24.
Sure.
So frustration mounts, and the person who's chasing a dollar typically bounces. And the person who's passionate about really helping people and create a career and growth and opportunity, they will ride it out. So you try to identify that when they come in, when they interview for the position, is what's your passion? What's your why?
Oh, that's so good.
What are the things that you like? What drives you? What motivates you? And I'm learning as I go. So,
oh yeah, sure, of course. So I want to circle back to that where you just said like the interview process, right? You mentioned that they know the what. They know the what, like, I want the job. I want to do this. How often do you find that they don't know the why?
Depending on the age of the person.
Sure.
The maturity level.
The maturity level.
People. What is the why? Because the why changes. For me, early I enjoyed those things, but
right.
The paycheck was a lot of what drives me today.
Sure.
It's my family.
Yes.
It's my community. Those are the things that I'm passionate about, and it
right.
drives me each day. So that can change, but some people are different.
Yeah.
I have a daughter that knows exactly what she wants to do. She's passionate about it.
That's awesome.
Nothing's going to stop her. She's 18 years old. She's driven like no kid I've ever seen in my life.
Okay.
You know, she has that clarity at 18 years old, and she's focused, and she knows what it is, and she knows the why. She wants to be a nurse because she wants to help people.
Okay. Is she your oldest?
Yes, she's
okay. Do you think there's anything that you and your wife said or lived or modeled that helped channel your daughter's passion to knowing what she wants at such an early age? Is there any kind of like parenting tip or guidance? That's a deep question. Yeah.
A deep question, sorry. And that's one, I mean, she has the best role model in her mother.
Okay. All right.
She has a great role model in her mom, and I think it was probably sparked her passion for healthcare, maybe losing her grandpa.
Okay.
When she was a little kid, but her mom kept his memory alive.
Nice.
And talked about the things that he went through when he had
right.
terminal illness, and I believe that really sparked an interest in her and her passion for people, and she just cares about people. And
yeah, I believe that. I believe that some of the greatest passions are birthed out of burdens. Mm-hmm. To experience something. I would probably. I mean, I feel confident in saying that majority of leaders that are still leading today have failed way more than they have won, right? And what would you say to a person, an up-and-coming person, or just a person who's interested in leadership at all, about how to respond to failures? Because, I mean, if you have a dealership, I mean, I'm sure not every day is just paradise. I mean, I'm sure, because it would appear that you have a large staff. You've got different departments. Like when I call up to, get an oil change or something, I've got a menu of things that I'm walking through. How do you continue to encourage your team to get through some of the failures? What's just some advice you would share about that, about how to respond? How do you respond to failures at knowing it could lead to wisdom?
It's the one thing that motivates you the most.
Okay. All right.
The biggest frustration point. So how do we learn and how do we grow from that? It's truly an education. My old mentor, Tony Brown, used to say he had a Harvard education in the mistakes that he made. He said, I can pay for a Harvard education with the mistakes that I've made.
That's so good.
I understand completely what he's talking about now. So I use those to fuel me to learn and to create processes from how,
that's a good word.
Where's the root cause of the problem, and how do we resolve that? And it changes daily, but it's what drives you to be better. It's what keeps you honest and keeps you uncomfortable, because you one thing you can't do is become comfortable. You cannot become comfortable.
So what do you do then? If you get to a place and you're like, okay, it's good. This is good, and now you're being reminded. You're like, oh, if it's good, am I too busy being good that I'm forfeiting great? How do you start going to the next level?
2024 was a great reminder, because we felt we had the car business figured out from 2020, mid-2020
sure.
to early 23, and then things started to change and things
right.
become more challenging. So we had to get the playbook out and go look at things that you did years ago, because a lot of those things haven't changed. But for me, it's a continuous pursuit of education.
Oh, my goodness, dude. You're killing it. Yeah.
Last year, I pursued something that I'd put off for about probably 10 years, and I went through 6 weeks of training through the National Auto Dealers Association.
Okay.
Called the Dealer Academy.
Oh, wow.
Because I was feeling stagnant.
Okay.
I get to that point, I'm feeling stagnant. So I completed this course. It was great, and I'm out of it about 6 months, and I continue to get this feeling that I'm becoming stagnant. I'm not getting better in my trade. So I pursue the next route of training, and today it's I've pulled my whole group into a training because I feel like sometimes I'm on this path,
right,
and I preach it.
Yeah.
But today I need to bring everybody on the same path.
Right.
But for me, it's continuous education. Never stepping on the brakes. You have to keep pushing forward because we're in a industry that's changing so much.
Okay.
With the push of
I don't think we probably realize how much that is true. Like, give me an example. Like the normal consumer, right? Like, commercial comes up, and I like, if you ask me to explain like everything that's underneath the hood, it kind of what you said. Like, I'm going to work, and I got a truck because we're always working at the church. Like, we're always building, like a Dunkin' somewhere. Like, how is the car industry changing?
EV.
Okay.
And we're happen to be in middle America here that says, hey, we don't want EV.
Okay.
And the coast is saying, hey, we're dying for EV. So I spent 6 weeks in Washington, D.C., and the interesting thing for me is every Uber that I took was in an electric car.
Really?
Almost every car, every Uber.
I would have not guessed that.
So it's there, and there's a need for it. I don't think the path we were on was necessarily the right path.
Right.
Too quick, too much too quick.
Sure.
But there's definitely a need for it. Some people want it.
Okay.
Other people are never going to be happy with it until they have no other alternative. But EV, for me, is clearly like it's a complete, transformation of our industry. And one of the interesting things in some of the training I've been taking, it says that think about what it, how our world has changed in the last 100 years, the evolution in the last 100 years.
Okay.
And what they're saying is in the next 5 years, we're going to change another 100 years. So you think about how fast things are moving.
Wow.
You think about phones and how fast
people
expect things and at the pace and.
Because I'm watching AI, like I can't even keep up. Like AI was already on to like its third platform by the time that I was like, artificial intelligence. I think there was a movie like 20 years ago that like Will Smith did or something that was like AI, and I was just like, I was like robots, and they're like it's way more sophisticated than that. And then what is it, Steve? Like GP something chat? Oh gosh,
Chat GPT.
There it is, right? And so
that is the base engine of a lot of it, and then everybody burns off of that.
And then I heard the other day they're just like, Ryan, what do you know about it? I was like, it's like not a lot. And so I started getting educated on it, and they're like, yeah, and they're like, this is already old news. They're like, the fact that you're already learning this, we're already gone. And businesses are doing that, and and I've seen some church kind of like develop with that as to like what it is. Hopefully, it's people aren't getting their sermons written by you never know these days, right?
Right.
That's crazy. Okay, I never really thought about
cars, self-driving cars. EV, I mean, there's so much changing, so you have to stay on the cutting edge.
Right.
You have to force yourself out of that comfort zone and say, hey, I'm not great yet.
Yeah.
I probably never will be, but I have to keep pursuing education.
With something like that happening, the electric car, and you mentioned that like we're in middle America, right? And so like some places are interested in it, some places are not. How do you as a leader determine if it's a right fit for your business or for the community? Not even thinking about like the dollar. Like there's things in it. There's not like how do you determine like is this good for us? Is this a good thing?
Absolutely. I think you step back and take a look at percentages.
Okay.
What percentage of people does it work for? Who's driving long distance to work?
Right. That's a great question.
You and I sit back and look the other day, and he lives in the community and works at our dealership, and 5,000 miles a year. He's probably not too worried about it, but for somebody that is continuously on the drive, on the road, they drive a lot, they're 250, 300 miles a day, that's wrong for that person at that point in time because the infrastructure isn't there. So we step back, and we've been talking about what percentage of people, and we don't have the number yet, but what percentage of people want the ability to buy an EV and buy one locally.
Right.
And we went through a remodel in the last 2 years.
Yeah, it looks great, by the way, man.
Yeah, thank you. And now our manufacturer's pushing us really hard to, hey, you have to become EV compliant. It's like there's really no demand.
Okay.
And the cost putting the infrastructure in is tremendous. So we're trying to figure that out. And I know there's a small percentage of people that want that.
Sure.
You know, I've had disagreements with my manufacturer talking about it. And the other day I look up and I see a Chevy Equinox EV pulling in a driveway in Brandenburg.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay, cool.
Absolutely. So
yeah,
you know, I have to.
Sure. Yeah. You recognized
keep
it.
myself in check and say, you know, maybe there is a demand. Yeah, maybe there is. Maybe we need to, you know, pursue down that road and you know, but what does it look like and how can we do it responsibly? Because we don't want to look up and have a lot full of $80,000 Silverado EVs nobody wants that we're paying, you know, 7.5-8% interest on today. So so you have to think about that, and I think there is.
That's a good way.
Yeah, I think there's, you know, how do we tiptoe into this? Because I think that's where Middle America is.
Yeah,
you're not racing to be in it. But I go to Russell Springs to a swim meet 2 weeks ago, and there is one of those $80,000 Silverado EVs in the parking lot. So some people do want that evolution.
That's crazy.
Some say they never will, so time will tell. But I think it's a small percentage of the cars that are made for the next 10 to 15 years, 25-30%. I don't see it being 100%.
Yeah, no,
not here, not yet.
Wow, that's interesting.
So how do I keep up with that? That's our goal, but it's continuous education. You have to stay right. Stay alert of what your industry, how's it evolving?
Staying in touch, right? You made a comment earlier that I think translates over into a lot of different businesses. So the year 23, I think was good for a lot of people, right? And so right now, as one of the things I've been sitting with all my general managers over the different Duncans is I'm giving them like their payroll, their labor, their materials, their truck, and I'm saying like, hey, you got to work within these margins. Is this going to, here's your forecast, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, what was our 23 sales? And I said, I don't think that is going to be a good mark. I don't think that's going to be a good bench to look at. 23 was amazing. I was like, in 24, I was like, did you hit your numbers compared from 23 to 24? And they're like, no. They're like, we were down about like 11%. I'm like, exactly. That's like, I think 23. I was like, even 22, because when everybody got the incentives like from the government during COVID, I don't know if people like put that in savings or IRAs or like mutual funds. I think they went out and they bought coffee and they bought cars and they bought guns. And like I know they bought coffee. Like we looked at the sales and like those years were amazing. And people were like, oh man, being a restaurant, was it hard? Not for the drive-through.
No.
There was it was zilch in the lobby, but the drive-through was way more than anything we could have ever hoped for. So we were thankful for it, but it is not. It would be a false sense of hope a little bit to be like, oh well, we got to stay with 23 and 22. And that's just interesting that you said that, because like I didn't know if like anybody else felt that way. Like coffee was great, and now we're having to like kind of like marginalize a little bit as to like what reality is. The dust is settling, and so now that we have these numbers, we're like, okay, what can we do to go to the next level? And so for us, it's operating within our means, which I think would be good counsel for everybody. But I don't know. You said that you were talking about processes and you were talking about like comparing 23. I felt like that was really good for like any business owner out there that's hearing like, oh man, like I got to get back to 23. 23 is gone.
Yeah,
23 is gone.
It is gone. I became a partner with Tony in 2017, and we grew through 2019. I bought the rest of the store in January of 20, and I always said, Lord, I need 2 good years, right?
Yeah.
Give me two good years.
Yeah.
Just to get your feet set.
Yeah.
That's when most businesses fail, right?
First 2 years, it is.
So January 20, we signed. 8 weeks later, COVID hits, and I said, Lord, that's not what we were talking about, right? That's completely not what I was talking about. So we struggled for the next 4 months, and then it absolutely blew up for 3 or 4 years,
right.
3.5 years, and we thought we had this thing figured out.
Sure.
But we do enough, thankfully, have enough data to go back and relate to prior to COVID.
Yeah.
Someone like yourself probably does not have enough data if you're
right. No, we're not looking at like 17, 18.
What does pre-COVID sales look like?
Right. So. We have that on like the church side of stuff, but on the Dunkin', just because like coffee has evolved. Like when I was in college, like the whole like coffee scene, there were coffee houses, but we weren't actually going to drink coffee. We were just kind of going to do homework and sit and connect. So I didn't really get invested into it until later in life. And then when coffee was more like a brand than it was a product, like, and that's what we call it. It's like, hey, what does the brand look like? What is it? Because right now with Super Bowl's coming up this Sunday, right? And Dunkin', I don't know if they were intentional about it, but their marketing during the Super Bowl ad last year was phenomenal. They had like these ridiculous tracksuits. They went out and got like all the celebrities, and sales for the next week were just awesome because people just wanted to be like, can I buy that tracksuit here? Or like, I've never heard of Duncan, blah, blah, blah. And so I know that we're going into this year thinking that it could be a little bit like that. I don't know. I don't really know, but I know that we're having to kind of like back up just a little bit and evaluate like where are we realistically for realistic expectations. But okay, so before we go, tell me like one habit that you feel like as a leader you need to you don't have to possess, but what's one leadership trait? What is one habit that you do daily as a person who has all of these years of experience? Like I'm up at 4 and I'm at, and I'm at the gym by this part, and I know I got to be in the office by this part, and I'm talking with my GMs. Like, what is a habit that you have developed that is pretty foundational for you?
It's transparency, just meeting with people.
Oh man, that's good.
Meeting with your staff, making sure that you're having the conversation.
Sure.
Even when they're the hard conversation.
Yeah.
You have to have those. So just meeting with staff, saying hello to the employees.
Yes.
There's a lot of days I miss some of them because we do have about 55.
I was going to say, you got some.
But it's important to touch those people.
Absolutely.
Say hi and just the same as with the customers.
Right.
Trying to be
absolutely
present with the customers as well. I fail often, but we all do. I do make an attempt at it. But just talking to the people,
that's awesome.
Engaging how they are, how's the rest of the staff, and reviewing numbers. I'm getting better about that myself in the last 2 years, and part of that was some of the training that I went through.
Yeah, that training, that's so encouraging to hear that like you are the man. I mean, like, I don't know if you probably ever introduced yourself as I am the man. I don't like, the humility is amazing, but you are the guy, and yet you're still saying, I got to keep learning.
You have to.
I got to keep training.
I'm 50.
Okay.
I'm not a college graduate, and one of the things that drives me is people doubted my ability to do this.
Okay.
Because I didn't have that. I didn't have the college education, but I have now 27 years of experience.
Yeah.
And work. And, and I stay up at night and I read and I study my craft, my industry.
What are you reading these days?
Typically,
or anything.
I don't read a whole lot. It's short. Right?
Okay.
I can't stay focused long enough to.
This is where you're supposed to say, "I read the Messenger."
Right.
No,
I read the Messenger. Yeah, sure.
Just anything, automotive news.
Yeah.
Watch podcasts with people who are in automotive.
Yes.
There's so much that is out there, but NEDA is a great source for me.
Yeah.
And they stay on cutting edge of where this is going.
Right.
They talk about a lot of not just what's the evolution with the industry, but what about in Washington.
Right. Yeah. That's a big deal.
You have to pay attention to what is the government saying? Which direction are we going today?
Absolutely.
So, but I've studied so much that I feel like I have a master's degree.
You probably do.
I don't have the paper to go with it.
That's okay.
But for me, it's I'm driven now more than ever, and maybe that is like I said, maybe that is because of my family.
Absolutely.
Our employees.
Yeah.
I don't want to fail our community. I don't want to fail those people. So So that's what drives me, and if I'm doing it as a leader, I can look across the table and ask my employees to do it as well.
That's true. Yeah, if you're willing to do it.
I have to lead by example.
Absolutely.
So.
I think a lot of people would make the mistake of saying that they always have to lead from the front, and especially in the church world. So like when I'm doing devotions, when I'm listening to podcasts because I love listening and hearing things that I've never heard before and going to like where the history was, who the people were being written to, and a lot of people would be like, oh, well, the books of the Bible, majority of them, if not all of them, are letters. They're letters, and I think that's really cool because if you're like, oh, there's a letter, it's more than a book, but leading from behind. Getting in the trenches with them. I could not champion that, what you said, more than that, because that's phenomenal.
You have to trust your leadership team. We have a leadership team. Trust that you're okay with them leading.
Yeah.
Sit back and listen. learn from your own team.
Good.
Right?
Way good.
Be humble enough to learn from your own team.
Whew, we could talk all day, man. That's awesome. That's all. It's funny. I'll give you this prop, and then we'll transition out of here. I love reading about leadership. I listen to podcasts all the time, and there's probably at least 24 things that you have said today that I can just say like, oh, I've heard that from successful leadership. I've read that. So it's cool that you say like, hey, I'm not a college graduate, but I know that if a person spends at least an hour a day for 4 or 5 years, they literally say that person can be, if they're not a master at their craft, a professional. And so this has been an honor. This is really cool. I'm really happy that you came today because you've given a lot of good insight. So
I'm honored that you asked me to be here.
Absolutely. Awesome. So very good. Hey, listen, it is good. We are wrapping up here. And in actually next Thursday, I've got Matt Todd, who is a franchisor owner of the McDonald's here in Meade County and Harrison as well. And so do not miss that. But thank you, Travis. Thank you for being here. If you have not checked out Flaherty Chevrolet, man, go down there. They got the best people, great hospitality. You will not be sorry. I promise you that. Thanks for stopping in. Have an amazing day.